guys? This is my first video on YouTube, and I'm doing this after getting the experience of interacting on Twitter for about, say, 6 months now, and it took a while before I was willing to put my face out there. So let me just give you a little bit of a background on who I am and where I've come from and what I've seen. My name's Alan. I'm 28 years old. Lived all over the country, Massachusetts, North Carolina, and Detroit. Graduated high school in 2008, and I'd like to consider myself an intelligent person. I got awoke at a very young age. I remember on 9/11 sitting in my classroom as student after student walked out of that room one by one. As I sat there and wondered why all these kids were disappearing, and I had no idea, but all I knew was something was happening. And when I got home and I saw those planes hitting those buildings, I realized my entire life was going to change. And I didn't know why, I didn't know how. I was too young to understand that. But at the same time, I knew my life was going to change. And from that moment, I realized that my entire life has been manipulated for one reason or another. From the time I was born, my parents lied to me about Santa being real. And that might seem like a simple, tiny lie, but it's a lot more than that when you break it down and you think about it. It shows you from a very young age that even the people you love the most are willing to lie to you, even if it's only for control. And that's what every lie breaks down to, is control. So I came to the realization after listening to a podcast that people thought the earth was flat, and I thought they were fucking mental, as anybody should that hears this. There's a knee-jerk reaction, it's natural, it was implanted from you from the day you were born to have this reaction when somebody tells you the earth is flat. You are supposed to laugh and gawk at them because that's what you've been programmed to do from the time you were born. From the time you walked into kindergarten or preschool and saw a globe, you were conditioned to believe that you live on a spinning ball, and that you were created by sheer happenstance, and that you're here for no other reason than poof, it just happened. When the complete opposite is more than likely the reality, when every religion from the dawn of man up until NASA tells you that the earth is flat and motionless, and then all of a sudden 500 years ago it changes because somebody says, I'm going to go against everything everybody's ever seen and observed and base it on a foundation of math. And math are just like words. I can describe anything I want to you. That doesn't make it true. Math doesn't make something true. At the end of the day, if you believe in a spinning ball, it comes down to this: that you believe a book written by men who you have never met, and you take that on faith. You take what they tell you on faith because you don't know these people. You haven't done these experiments. You don't know what the outcomes are if you were to do them yourself, and half of these experiments you can't even do yourself because they cost too much damn money. Think about it. NASA's getting $52 million a day. So I'm going to break this down to you. And break this down with the proofs that I myself hold dear to my heart because it's very easy for anybody to explain why the earth is flat to you. And I'm about to do this. So bear with me. This is going to be a longer video, my friends. This is going to be a longer video. It's going to be worth it, though. So the first thing I have to say is that every religion from the dawn of man, all human history, up until NASA, tells you that the earth is flat. If you read every holy book from every reputable civilization that's bettered humanity, even the ones that haven't bettered humanity, every civilization believes that the earth is flat. Every single one. Until NASA came along and changed all of that. Until the Catholic Church backed the Copernican theory. By the way, he didn't even want to release that until after his deathbed, but they convinced him to do otherwise. Every religion tells you the earth is flat, but you're willing to turn your back on all of human civilization, the people that have fought, died, made love, sacrifice so you could be here. You're going to turn your back on those people. Proof number one. There's no real poles. You can't go to the North Pole. You can't go to the South Pole. You can't go there. If you take an expedition to the North Pole, you're not really at the North Pole. They only show you a GPS that says you're at 90 degrees latitude. It doesn't give you the longitude and latitude, and that's because you're never really at the real pole. Same with the South Pole. You're never really at the Southern Pole, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason why everything is blocked off and you can't go there, but I'm going to get to that in a minute. Okay? The Coriolis effect is absolutely non-existent. Now people would like to make you believe that the Earth allows water to spin in different directions in toilets in different hemispheres, but there's experiments that prove that that isn't the case. They'd like you to believe that a bullet is affected by the Coriolis effect. However, why is a helicopter not affected? Why is a plane not affected? You can't have it both ways. You can't have both a bullet be affected, but a plane not be affected. This is your model we're talking about. If you believe in the globe, this is your model. You can't have it both ways. The Coriolis effect is observable when it comes to storms, but it's also explainable. There's no way you can prove the Coriolis effect. There's been experiments that disprove it. There's also a spaceship graveyard in the Pacific Ocean. Now we're talking about a graveyard that has spaceship parts that should be in outer space. Spaceship parts that should be in orbit or getting burned up in the atmosphere. I'm talking about the boosters. I'm talking about all kinds of components that are supposed to get jettisoned off of these aircrafts once they're in space. However, if you go down and you go into the Pacific Ocean and you dive down there, there's an entire graveyard full of ships that should not be there. This is fact. A group of guys went deep sea diving for an archaeological site, and it so turns out that they found this spaceship graveyard that should not exist. Okay, there's never been any vacuum tests done in modern aeronautic or astrophysics or anything when it comes to going into space. There's only been one person to ever step inside a vacuum, inside of a spacesuit. And you know what happened to this guy? He passed out within 30 seconds. I challenge you to find me a video besides that one that shows somebody in a spacesuit. I'm not talking about a G-suit because there's videos of people in G-suits and semi-vacuums. I'm talking about a spacesuit in a pure vacuum as close that we can get to on Earth. Because there's only one video. Only one video, and the guy passes out and almost dies. He could feel the saliva on his tongue boiling after 10 seconds. So do the math. Why? Why is there only one video of that? And why does the guy almost die in the process if those spacesuits are supposed to work? Alright, so then we run into the problem of GPS. GPS does not work over the oceans. If you're tracking flights, you think you would be able to track a flight anywhere on the planet, right? If we have GPS rotating above our heads all the time like they say we do, we should be able to track anything. They tell us that we can track every single piece of space debris, but we can't track the Malaysian flight that went down. We can't give those family answers about what happened to their family. We can't give it to them because the GPS never tracked that plane. Once you get 100 miles out past the shoreline, they don't track any of the flights. And that's a fact. Do your research if you don't believe me. They don't track any flights once you get 100 miles off the coast. Why is that the case if GPS is supposed to be showing us everything at all times? Okay, so we're moving on to the next one. The next proof is lunar waves. I suggest you go look up a guy named Crow777 on YouTube and type in lunar waves. It'll pop right up. Now, what this appears to be is a rendering effect on the moon, and it almost appears as though there's a wave moving from one side of the moon, starting in the upper corner, down the other, and the craters are actually moving their position as this lunar wave progresses across the moon. There's no reason for this to be plausible. If the Earth is in fact a spinning ball like they say it is, they cannot explain this. Also, the moon itself gives off a cold light. If you take a thermometer and you measure the shade at night, and then you measure the moonlight, which one do you think should be hotter? It should be the moonlight according to the standard model. However, it's not. The moon is putting off a cold light. If you don't believe me, go ahead and do this experiment yourself. It shows beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Earth is not a spinning ball, and in the model they say that it is. The next one we're going to get onto is the Antarctic Treaty. This treaty has existed since 1947, and every modern country in the entire world that's an economical power has signed this. We are not allowed to even negotiate this treaty until 2047. And what this treaty states is that nobody is independently allowed to explore Antarctica or even go below the 60th degree parallel. I ask you, why are they trying so hard to keep people like me and you from going to Antarctica and exploring the last vast unknown civilization, not civilization, but the last unknown swath of land on this great plane that we live on? Why are they stopping us from doing that? There's a good reason. That's because it proves for a fact that we live on a flat, motionless plane. Captain Cook himself circumnavigated Antarctica, okay? He circumnavigated it and clocked that Antarctica itself measures in excess of 60,000 miles. There's no way that this is possible according to the heliocentric model. There is no way at all that you should be able to measure 60,000 miles when trying to circumnavigate Antarctica. Just ask yourself why this happened. Also, if you want to circumnavigate the equator, it takes you 40 days. If you try to circumnavigate Antarctica, which is supposed to be far smaller, it takes you 120. Those are the records. 40 days for the equator, 120 for Antarctica. Why does it take you 3 times longer to circumnavigate a body of water that's supposed to be a third of the size? It's a question you need to ask yourself. You really need to ask yourself that question. Okay? They like to tell us that we went to the moon. Okay? They like to tell us that there's a delay between the ISS and Earth. I want to know why Reagan was on the phone communicating with the Apollo programs on the phone with absolutely no lag at all, when to this day, with all our modern technology, there's a lag between us and the ISS. However, during the original moon programs, there was absolutely no lag, and this was before we had all the satellite systems we have now. So that's just another question you have to ask yourself. Why is that in and of itself possible? Now, there's no South Pole, according to your compass, either. If you go to the southern hemisphere, you would think logically, if you're looking at your compass, that the needle should start pointing to the South Pole because it's the more dominant pole. However, that is never the case. Your compass will never point south. Never. Why? You're supposed to be closer to the stronger pole in the south, but your compass doesn't show you that. Your compass always points north. And that's because you live on a disk magnet. In my opinion. Again, this is all my opinion, backed up by research that I've done, and you should do it yourself. Don't believe a fucking word I'm saying. If you do, you're falling for the same trap you fell for when you fell for the globe. Do your own research, and then come back to me and ask questions. You're gonna run into a lot of stuff that, might make sense. You have to dig deep. Typing this into Google and going with the first thing you see is not going to give you the real answer. You have to dig deep and do your own research. Don't believe somebody just because it's easy to believe them. Okay? There's also a whole bunch of missing footage from the NASA Apollo programs. Apollo 11 in and of itself is missing over 1 ton in weight of footage. I'm talking a ton of weight in footage from those missions. All that footage got disappeared. They vanished it. It got lost. How do you lose the most significant historical footage for mankind ever? You lose this footage so nobody 100 years from now can watch the moon landing other than the live footage that was broadcast to the rest of the world? I wonder why that's the case. Also, there's a huge problem with eclipses on both models, and I'll admit this. However, it doesn't matter that there's a problem on the flat Earth model because, you know what, the heliocentric model has had a head start. My problem with eclipses is, how do we have eclipses with both the sun and the moon visible in the sky at the same time? Also, if that's the case, if they're in the sky at the same time, that's kind of explainable, but then why does the shadow move from the top to the bottom when it should be moving from the bottom to the top? Again, this isn't explainable on either model, but it blows a giant hole in how eclipses are supposed to work on a spinning ball. There's intersecting shadows from all of the pictures that were taken on the moon. There's only supposed to be one light source on the moon, according to Apollo. They didn't bring any external light sources. However, if you look at all of the pictures taken, there's multiple light sources, which proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the pictures on the moon landing were faked. There's no way around that. Period. The end. Also, during all the Gemini videos, it looks like there's stop motion footage. There's helmets that turn 100%. Space helmets are not supposed to turn according to how they were designed. And there's tons of videos showing turning helmets that look like stop motion footage from the Gemini films. There's no way that that should be possible at all. Also, when it comes to training, you never see astronauts training in zero G inside of their suits. You think they'd put them up in a parabolic plane in all of their suits. You never see that. Also, you never see them training in a vacuum chamber. They never train in the environment they're supposed to, ever. Why do they train in water? Why do we see bubbles all the time in their videos? I'm talking all the time. And I've even seen the reflection of scuba divers inside of the screens on the astronauts' helmets. You should go look that one up. It's very easy to do. Just type it into YouTube, man. It'll pop right up. Look for it yourself. Don't believe a word I'm saying. Now, there's a blue screen that was visible with Tim Peake in the screen when President Bush Sr. was getting wheeled through NASA. You can see it clearly in the background of this video. It shows a blue screen with a guy standing in front of it, and his name's Tim Peake. He's an astronaut. Why in the hell is there footage with George Bush getting wheeled through this room, and then on a screen in the background there's a guy standing in front of a blue screen, unless they're doing stuff with CGI? Because there's also been bloopers where you can see them grabbing objects while they're in the ISS that don't exist, or the objects are feet away from where they're supposed to be. A normal human can grab an object as it's floating by him. Why are they grabbing an object that's not there? Why are they doing stuff that doesn't make any sense? Why can you see people grabbing wires and yanking people towards them on the ISS? Go look up the videos. I'm not making this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up, man. Rockets. Rockets are not supposed to work in a vacuum. It goes against every physics lesson anybody has ever been taught. If a rocket shoots its propellant out of the back, it's supposed to have something for that propellant to push off of. However, in a vacuum, such as space, there is nothing for that to push off of. Now, they'd like us to believe that it's because it's coming out of the nozzle, but it does not work in a vacuum. I want you to find me any video of anybody using a rocket in a vacuum that is a true vacuum. Now, people put them in tiny tubes, but as soon as you ignite that fuse and you start filling it with the gases from that rocket itself, it's pushing off of its own gases at that point. That doesn't happen in space. You can't show me a vacuum the size of a house and then put a bottle rocket in it and have that bottle rocket work. It will not work. It doesn't work on Earth or in practice. So how the hell does it work in space, my friends? Also, there's no video of 24-hour sun anywhere in Antarctica. The only videos we have are missing at least 12 hours of footage. Now, they would have us believe that there's 24-hour sun in Antarctica, but every time we ask for a video, they can't provide it to us. Somebody did ask them for it, and their excuse for not giving it to us was they didn't have enough bandwidth. However, they did provide us with 6 months of 12-hour videos, so why not just provide us with 3 months of a 24-hour video? You know, the logic is very easy, but they happen to weasel their way out of everything when you ask them for it, okay? Now, radar itself also proves that we're on a flat plane. I have a buddy who's over in South Korea right now doing artillery training, and he's telling me straight up that he can see stuff at over 500 miles during perfect conditions with ground-based radar. That is 100% impossible if the Earth is supposed to be curving 8 inches per mile squared. There has never been an experiment that proves curvature. You can't see it no matter how high you go, even at 120,000 feet. And if my buddy can paint a target at 500 miles plus with radar in perfect conditions, there is no way, according to him, and he's in the military, there is no way that the Earth is curved. And he deals with this stuff on a daily basis. He thought it was full of shit until he had that experience every single day when he went out for training. He asked his superiors why they don't have to account for it. They told him to shut up and do your job. Why? Why? Also, there's parallel Copernican rays that hit the Earth's surface. According to the heliocentric model, anyway, because it's not something we observe. All the rays hitting the Earth's surface coming through the clouds are intersecting and divergent. They're moving at different angles. This is not possible if the Earth is 93 million miles away from the Sun. You should not be able to see this. However, it's an observable thing that we see every single day. Every time you look up at the Sun and you see those awesome angelic beams coming down through the clouds, It's because the sun is a close stationary, not stationary, but a close local light source, my friends. It's the only way to explain it. Flight paths on a flat earth make a hell of a lot more sense. There was a lady that was supposed to be flying from somewhere in the Pacific to somewhere else in the Pacific, and she happened to go into labor, right? Anybody want to guess where the plane detoured and landed? How about Anchorage, Alaska? This lady was going from somewhere like in Japan to somewhere over on the east coast of the United States and ended up landing in Anchorage to have her baby. Why? It doesn't make any sense. Just check out flight paths on a flat earth compared to flight paths on a globe earth if you don't believe me. Okay? North-south circumnavigation is another serious proof that you need to look into because it's only been done by one person ever. And it just so happens that that one person just happened to be the cousin to the Queen and a Freemason. And after all this time, why has only one person ever circumnavigated the Earth north to south, going over both poles? You'd think this would be happening on a daily basis because it's something cool, it's something everybody can do. But you never, ever see this happening. It's only been done one time. Now, the biggest proof for me is the fact that there is Buddhist maps out there that show all 7 known continents, including Antarctica, as a ring around the outside. And then it shows additional continents on a ring outside of that, with additional bodies above our heads. Suns, moons, Rahu Ketu is what they call them on this map. I want to know how you can explain Buddhists that predate all of our written history are producing maps of our entire plane, plus continents on top of it, with complete accuracy of what we know today. How did they do this before having any access to the technology we do today? Why are they showing us continents on the other side of Antarctica, which has also been documented by people who've explored inlets and waterways into Antarctica that said they've been beyond that great ice wall? I want everybody to check into this, man. I looked into this 3.5 years, going on 4 years ago, because I thought it was crazy. And you know what I tried to do? I tried to go out and prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Earth was a spinning ball with an experiment I could do. There's not one experiment that proves rotation or motion. People are going to say the Foucault pendulum is one of those experiments, but then I ask you, why the hell isn't perpetual motion happening from anything hanging from an object? If that ball is supposed to be moving back and forth due to the rotation of the Earth, then why do we not see wrecking balls giving us the same exact motion? Why does perpetual motion not exist? If Foucault's pendulum was an experiment that truly existed, then it would never stop rotating, it would never stop moving. Perpetual motion would exist, free energy would exist just because of the Earth's spin. However, that's not something we see. People have tried the Foucault's pendulum over and over again and find out that sometimes it moves in the complete opposite direction, sometimes it doesn't complete its entire cycle, sometimes it knocks over stuff out of order. Therefore, it's not a reliable and repeatable experiment. And on top of that, gyroscopes also prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Earth is not rotating. The $20,000 gyroscope that's made with lasers gets put on a table that rotates one rotation every 24 hours, and it picks up that rotation, no problem. However, if you put it on the equator and just leave it alone, it should pick up Earth's rotation. However, it picks up no rotation at all. Absolutely none. Star trails also prove that there's no rotation. Star trails move. Yes, they move in a complete circle, a complete perfect circle. However, there's supposed to be over 6 different motions happening at the same time and exerting itself on the Earth at the same time. However, the stars have stayed in the exact same position for all of recorded history. And on top of that, they like to tell us that parallax motion doesn't exist, when in fact, it does. They just discount it with their math and base it on a foundation that doesn't exist. So the way they discount retrograde motion is by taking the first 3 years of movement forward. So what a star does is it starts in its original position. The first year it moves forward, second year it moves forward, third year it moves forward, fourth year it resets back to its original position. The way that they discount it with their math is they take the first 3 years, they add them up and divide them, and they take that number and insert it for the year where it does reset. So they discount that reset completely and tell us, oh, the stars are just in their original position because math says so. That's not how science works. You guys need to look into this yourself, man. Just look into it. I'd love for you guys to add me up here on Twitter. be looking for more videos. I'm going to be doing more of these. I have a testimonial that I'm going to be working on here. And like, follow, comment as you see fit, man. Tell me you fucking think I'm a loser if you really want to, man. The more videos and more shit I put out, the more views I get, I don't care, man. Trolls are going to troll. It is what it is. I'm here to tell you the truth, or at least what I think it is. And if you don't like it, oh well, man. Don't watch the videos. You're not going to get any attention from me. I want to say thank you for anybody that did watch this. I'm surprised to see that I had as many viewers as I did. I really appreciate it. And just hit me with as much feedback as you can. Have a nice day. Keep it flat. Take care, guys.